It's that time of the day. Heading to my first coffee and getting my ideas in order for the first video of the day. It has to be about Cristiano Ronaldo, and I'll give you the context of why he reacts the way he reacts. First, I need a coffee. So, Cristiano Ronaldo. I think the first thing to say is that with all the consequence of where we're born, of our parents, of our education, and I think Cristiano Ronaldo has had a big vacuum in his life that has to do with a mom that had to look after 4 kids because dad was alcoholic and absent. So they weren't present as Cristiano was growing up. As a kid, you want your parents to give you a frame of how you should behave, limit perhaps your dreams as a kid in a way, so you can focus on what you're good at or what you should be doing to provide for yourself and your future family. That's what family does. But if they're not there, there's a good thing about it. You can dream to be the best in the world, nobody will tell you no. And there is a bad thing about it. When you don't have that love, you constantly search for it. When you didn't have it as a kid, you demand almost want the devotion of the whole world. That would be the extreme. And that's what happened to Cristiano Ronaldo. So he always needs to be on a stage, always needs to be the focal point, the center of attention. We've seen it before in the Euros 2018 that Portugal won. He didn't have any impact on that Euros in the key stages of the tournament. But you saw him taking the place of Fernando Santos and giving instructions to players. I asked to some of those players if they were hearing what he was saying, and they all said, nah, we didn't hear what he was saying. But in the mind of everyone, there's this idea that Cristiano Ronaldo was crucial and key for that victory. He still needs that. So what we saw yesterday was someone that still needs the story to be told via him. What we saw was Cristiano that took the free kicks, even though he's got a ratio of 61 taken and 1 scored with the national side. He still needed to be at the end of crosses and demanded those crosses, even though he doesn't reach them anymore. He was getting anxious because things weren't happening for him, and that is a sign of somebody that needs to perform at the highest level and needs to give the audience what they want, the goal, the key moment. Otherwise, he feels he's failing them, and he gets in exchange the devotion. See the link? But he right now is less needed to the national side than he needs the national side. But Roberto Martinez has decided that for harmony purposes, he needs to be there. Roberto Martinez has decided to limit his area of influence. Stay in the box, Ronaldo. We will just put crosses to you. And players are certainly putting those crosses for him. It's just that he's not finishing. And when he has the opportunity to shoot, he just doesn't, he's not as accurate or as subtle as he used to be. But Roberto thinks that's the way forward. So for half of the game, if you include extra time, Portugal played good enough to actually win if he had a better finisher. After that, I think Portugal struggled to create opportunities and to play with fluidity. And yet Cristiano was there. Was there, of course, to take the penalty in extra time. The one that decided the tie, really. It looked that way. Key moment. And he's going to be the protagonist. He's going to win the ball. And he takes the ball and he misses the penalty. It would have been the headlines. It would have been beating the record of Modric as the oldest player to score in the Euros. And that's important in his head. It would have been him being the superstar again. And yet it didn't happen. And he starts crying. And why the tears? I've got a theory about it, which has to do with the anxiety of realizing that the end is near and not accepting it. Anxiety can lead people to go to the extreme of their personality traits. So for Cristiano Ronaldo, anxiety will take him to be the whole thing, all about him. And I'm not sure that helps Portugal. So instead of being happy with what has been a fantastic career, he's still fighting to be the number one. He's still fighting to be the one that wins the games. And at this point, it just didn't happen. But the opportunities for this to happen must be getting smaller and smaller because the end is near. He says he's going to retire 41 anyway, so there's another World Cup for him. I'm convinced about that. And if Roberto's still in charge, he will count on Cristiano for sure. But at that moment, the whole world collapsed for him. Because of that, because the anxiety and the sense that he's not going to have many opportunities to actually be the number one, the superstar. It's also a sign of how he perceives the world. It's all about him. It's all about the individual performance, and sometimes, not sometimes, always, the individual goes ahead of the collective. I spoke to a couple of sports psychologists and they gave me some more clues of what he's going through. They want to remain anonymous, but one of them said, as an educated guess, Ronaldo will be close to testing in the dark triad of personality: narcissism, Machiavellism and psychopathy. Very low in humility. And this helps him and can hinder him. This helps him to help his team, but often hinders him to be a great teammate. Cristiano, yes, narcissism in its pure form. And when he thinks first of him and how he's going to be perceived, and when he wants to be a center of attention at that level, that even cry during a game, it's just simply a good example of these things that we're talking about. It was fascinating to hear Roberto Martinez after the game trying to put all together what had happened all together, and he's brilliant at it. He's absolutely brilliant because he picks the positive side of what has happened and how even the teammates went to Cristiano and embraced him and cheered him up and realized that you know, behind the facade of somebody who's not a great teammate, there's a person who struggles at that point. So everybody went to the gesture of touching him and grabbing him and lift him up. Roberto Martinez put in words perfectly the positive side of this whole drama.
First and foremost, I think it's a constant example for us. When you see a player, the only player, let's say, that has ever played 6 European Championships, and he's got that responsibility, that desire, that belief as a young man, those emotions are incredible for someone that has won everything and has experienced everything. He doesn't need to care that much. And that's why I thank him for being the way he is, for caring for the group, for being someone that after missing a penalty, which only the penalty takers can miss penalties, and you have to give credit to the goalkeeper. He was the first penalty taker. I was certain that he had to be the first penalty taker and show us the way to the victory. And I think we're all very, very proud of our captain. The dressing room was delighted with what he's done, and I think he gave us all a lesson that you need to live every day as the last one. You need to have real high standards and never give up. Life and football gives you difficult moments, and the way he reacted is a real example that we are very proud in Portuguese football.
Anyway, what do I know so much about how Cristiano thinks? Partly because I've met him, I've been with him, I presented events with him. I know how he thinks as well because for 2 years I was researching his mentality from a sociological point of view, from a psychological point of view, talking to a lot of people, and that was converted in a award-winning book which has been updated in many languages, including English and German. It's the biography of Cristiano Ronaldo. So if you want to know why he does what he does and what makes a Cristiano Ronaldo, then that certainly is one way to find out. They will be facing France next, and that will be a different challenge because one thing Portugal has struggled with is when Slovenia defended so tightly and so deeply, they couldn't find enough combinations, enough insisting in the combinations, enough intensity in the runs in behind, in the link-ups. There was not enough of that after about an hour of the game, and France will be there, with the exception that when they have an opportunity like Sesko had, it'll be Mbappé possibly, and it possibly will be a goal. So, big game, massive game, very much looking forward to it. Hoping to see Cristiano making an impact, because in a way, we all want that, but in another, we'll keep an eye anyway, if he doesn't, to see his reaction. We saw them crying in Qatar, we saw him crying yesterday. It will be a massive defeat for him as well if they get knocked out. But I do believe he'll be back in the next World Cup, which then, yes, it will be his swan song. But right now, see, we're all talking about Cristiano.